Congratulations to making it to video number 2 for our HD camcorder. Let's get to our first section right away.
Let's see what's included. Let's start out with the battery. Regular Sony Info lithium battery, the FX1-Z1U. With the Z1U, you get a battery charger. To charge up your battery for the first time, simply slide it in there, take the included AC power cord, plug it into the back, plug that into the wall, and your battery will charge. Now, on the Z1U, the battery is charged over here, but on the FX1, the battery is charged right in the camera, and you simply plug the camera in, and it will charge the battery pack. Once we've charged our battery up, we take the battery and we put it, and this is common for both cameras, we simply put it in the back. The little arrow on the battery goes down, stick it in the slot there, and give it a little click, and it's home. You can now move the power switch and turn the power on. To remove the battery, you simply press the gray button on the top of the camera body right above the battery, press slightly up on the battery, and it pops out in your hand. With the FX1, to power the camera while it's on the tripod, you plug the camera in the back. With the Z1U, you have to use this unit, which pops into the back, just like the battery does, and plugs into the battery charger. Once we have the camera powered up, the next thing we will want to do is insert a tape. To insert the tape, you come over here and you hit the open/eject button. And I know this seems pretty obvious. You'd say, sure, I know how to get the tape in and out of the camera. But in fact, a lot of people have to send their cameras back for broken transport mechanisms for not taking enough care with this step. So you push the thing, and then you've got to actually pull the door down manually. Once that happens, the internal tape transport mechanism comes up and allowing you to insert a cassette. The majority of the time of inserting a cassette is, of course, taken with getting the plastic off. But once you have that step down, you can put in the cassette. And again, the label goes towards you, the active part goes down. And once you have the cassette in, you press on the front corner of the transport mechanism. It will then pop in, pull itself down, and you can close that again. It's very, very important to do these steps very carefully, very slowly, and very gingerly so as not to injure or damage the delicate tape transport mechanism. Also included with the basic package are many accessories. One is this rubber eyepiece. If you don't like the cup or find that you have a lot of excess light leaking in, you can pull off this rubber cup and put on this rubber eyepiece cup. As you can see, you just sort of push it on and manipulate it around a little bit, and you'll be able to feel when it's correctly seated. As you can see, now it blocks out a lot more ambient light when shooting. There is also included a Sony shoulder strap here with an attractively printed logo. There are 2 points for inserting this on the camera. One is right here, and the other is on the other side over here, a small metal clip above the indicator light. Simply put the strap through, thread it through the plastic buckle, and you can have a shoulder strap for your camera. I find that the shoulder straps get in the way, so I never install them myself. Another thing that's included is a shoe mount. This goes on the front above the stereo microphone, and what it does is it extends, but more importantly changes the gender of a standard light mount. So you can screw this on and then have the other gender available for mounting a light or an external accessory holder. Also included are two types of cables for media out. You pop this open and you have several options here. The first one is the component out. This has a special Sony tip on one end and 3 colored RCA connectors on the other end. The cable fits into the component output slot marked on the camera. And when you're wanting to export component video, this is a very high fidelity way to get analog video out of the camera. A method that has less fidelity because it uses composite video with stereo is the AV cable. And the AV cable is right under the component cable. It's colored yellow on the camera. It's a tip ring sleeve, 1/8" jack that simply pops in there. And now you have available to you composite video and 2 audio channels. This is another good way to get video out of the camera. Lastly, we have the remote commander. This will allow you to set the camera on top of, say, a television and play, stop, rewind, or fast forward, but it also allows you to use the camera to remotely record a scene. You can put it on the tripod, face it towards you, and then using the remote commander, you can move the zoom in or out and start and stop recording. It also has a few limited buttons such as the 0 set memory, display, data code, and search mode, which are buttons that are found on the top of the camera.
One feature on this camera is the length control, and although it started out as a feature that could be used for editing, just about everybody using nonlinear would not use the length control for editing, but the length port does have a particular feature use, and that is for, in this case, we call it the VariZoom, which is portable, battery-operated zoom, record, focus controls. And all that can be controlled by plugging in one of these units into the length jack. I'm going to plug my VariZoom into the length jack, which is located right near the headphone jack. And you can see the controls on this. You have the record, the focus, and the zoom in and out. So if I wanted to record, I could just hit that button. Usually you take one of these remote controls and you put it on the tripod handle, which allows you to not have to touch the camera to zoom in and out, which could shake your picture, especially if you're zoomed in from quite a distance. Let's take a look at how this operates by looking at the LCD screen. I'm going to move this closer over here and zoom in and out. And you see I'm not touching the camera at all. And then if I wanted to record, I could just hit the record, and I could hit it again and it'll stop. And then I can also adjust the focus in manual focus mode. So these particular items are available on the internet. Many different companies carry them. This is VariZoom.com, and they mount on your camcorder. And we also use them sometimes when we do shoots, studio shoots. We run the cable into another room, and when we cut between 2 cameras, we're able to have a pan tilt control, which is a separate device mounted on the bottom, and then also this, so we can control our features, or you'd be able to control all the features of this camera from another room.
The FX1 and the Z1U cameras both have assignable buttons on the side of the camera. The FX1 has 3 assignable buttons and 3 buttons that have been pre-assigned for you with record, review, backlight, and spotlight. The Z1U camera has all 6 of these buttons assignable with a variety of functions that are normally only accessible through the menus. Let's take a look now at how we assign these buttons. The assignable buttons are set by first pressing the menu button, then using the select, push, execute wheel to get to the others menu. Select that, and assign button is your first option. Select it again, and you see that we have 3 button choices. To assign a button, select it, and then you can scroll up or down to get to the option you want. It gives you a listing on the right of what the button is set as currently, and an option on the left of what you can set it to. I'm going to set these to index mark, fader, and steady shot. So now, anytime I want to use these settings, I simply press the button on the side of the camera instead of having to open the menus and select them that way. To get out of here, simply hit return and go back up to the top to end. Keep in mind that on the FX1 you have 3 assignable buttons with 6 assignable functions. On the Z1U, all of these buttons are assignable, and you have over a dozen assignable functions. The assignable buttons are an easy way for you to keep often used tools right at your fingertips. And if you plan ahead for the job you're shooting, you can make sure that you have the right tool ready when you need it.
Keep in mind not to leave your camera on for more than 5 minutes at a time, otherwise it'll go into a different kind of standby and it'll take longer to fire up. Also, one of the important things to know is that when your camera is in standby or pause record mode, you're having the tape head right next to the tape spinning around. So conceivably, there's more of a chance that you're going to have a dirty tape head when you have it on standby. Whenever I'm out in the field and I'm going to be longer than 2 minutes, I just power down the camera or push it over to the center position so I don't have to worry about that problem.
On the Z1U camera, there's an extra feature called color correct and color extract. If you turn the memories on and look under camera set and then go down to color correct, we've got the type here. If you hit type with your select exec button, you're going to have 2 different types, color revision and color extract. Both of these have 2 memory positions like the shot transition, but they do different things here. Color revision is where you can pick 1 or 2 colors that you select and change them within the picture. And color extract is where you can pick 1 or 2 colors and extract those from the palette of the entire spectrum of the color picture you're recording. And the rest of the picture is black and white, and maybe the apple or a couple of the items are still in color. So of course we'd set that up by going down to our memory 1 and memory 2 here. You can see we've got 2 memory positions for each function, color revise and color extract. It's just called revision and color. Color is color extract. So we go ahead into color here and go ahead and set our phase or tint and our range and our saturation. The range is the width of the colors around that set point that are affected by this effect, and our saturation level. And then go ahead and set the memory 1 in revision. Same type of thing over here, except you're doing the adjustment slightly different. But you can go ahead and while you're looking through the screen and see how it's having an effect on the color picture that you're looking at. Also, once you set the preset colors that you want to either extract from the picture or revise in the picture, you can then go to the memory select button and say, well, I just want to really do one of them. I want to just revise or shift one of the colors slightly or extract one of the colors, just the apple, and leave the background black and white in memory 1 or 2. Or I want to use both of those, so I'll have actually 2 colors that we're modifying or 2 colors that we're extracting and leaving the background black and white. So that's basically the function of the color correct feature on the Z1U, the better camera. Now let's go outside and take a look at how these features actually function. This is with normal color balance outside, showing Zach's shirt in its original brick color. Now in the color extraction mode, we've got the phase adjusted to about 19, which is around the green area, showing that everything else is black and white except for the green. Changing the phase control. We're getting the brick color now and some of the browns, but with the green almost completely gone. Now in the color revision mode, I'm going through the phase color on Zach's shirt, and we can add a little bit of yellowish tint to it there and sort of revise its phase or tint a little bit. Bring it back to its more original color. And you can pick one or two colors to revise or extract with the color correction control.
Right now, I'm outside with Zach to give a demonstration of the on-camera microphone with the Sony HD. As you can hear, we have dogs barking in the background and some music playing and some traffic going by. This may not be the ideal situation for audio, and if you don't have a wireless clip-on, you may need to use a shotgun. I'm about 7.5 feet away from Zach with the on-camera microphone, and now we're going to attach to the Z1 camera the Sennheiser MKE66. Now this will be a little loose in the Z1's holder, so we may have to put a little tape or cardboard in there. The FX1, you're going to have to get really creative of how to mount it. The thing you want to make sure though is go to your full wide setting with your camcorder and make sure the end of the microphone doesn't stick out and be picked up by the camera's lens, and to do that you'll be able to slide it back and forth just to the point that it'll work. Let's give a demonstration right now of the audio using the shotgun mounted right on the camera. This is before using the on-camera mic, and now we're going to change the menus and listen to what it sounds like with the shotgun on. Now this is what I sound like with the Sennheiser MKE66 shotgun microphone attached to the top of the camera, and you can hear the difference between the two. And the other alternative, of course, is to hold the, I'm 7 feet away, I'll go take the microphone now and hold it right here, just for the fun of it. Let's see what that sounds like too. This is a demonstration of the Sennheiser shotgun microphone, holding it down almost near waist level, and you can judge for yourself what this sounds like and what kind of audio quality you would get if you had this similar situation.
The status check button, found on the back of the camera here, is an easy way for you to review all of your user settable functions on your camera to make sure that it's set up how you need it for the shot you're about to take. The status check button on the back of the camera brings up a screen telling you all of your functions. You can see here that our input is the internal mic, our wind filter is off, and our audio select is on auto. If you scroll down using the select push execute wheel, then you can see we have two more pages with more information detailing your input output setups, the TV type you have, and on the third page what your assignable buttons are set to. If you find yourself in a setting where you can't remember where you have your camera settings, simply push your status check button and scroll through these pages to quickly review what your important camera settings are set to. So remember the status check. It's a powerful tool to make sure you've got everything set right.
Let's discuss the audio set menu. To get to the audio set menu, you turn on your camcorder, but this time you set it in the VCR mode, and this way when you hit menu, a different menu comes up, the audio set menu. This is different from putting it in camera mode and hitting menu and having the camera set mode come up. So to get to this other menu, once again, put the little lever to the side upwards instead of downwards, press menu, and you get an entirely different menu, the audio set menu. Now that you see on the screen you have different choices, we're going to go to the first one, multi-sound. Multi-sound can be either stereo 1 or 2. I had put it on 1 before, but you want to keep it on stereo, and that's the default. If you were to set it to 1, you would only get the left channel of audio, and 2, the right channel of audio. Also, sometimes you can get a recording that's on mini DV tape that has multi-tracks, and by going to 1 or 2, this would get the main track and this would get the sub-track. This camcorder is not going to ever record multi-tracks, so you really don't have to worry about that. Keep it in stereo unless you want the left or the right output only. Let's move on to the next thing, audio mix. It's preset all the way to the left, which is basic stereo sound. However, if you audio dub something onto this camera and play it back, you're not going to hear it unless you adjust your mix all the way over to this side, or in the middle, in which case you'd hear both the original sound plus the mixed sound. I'm going to give you a demonstration of audio dub in a minute, but first let's go on to the other menu items. The audio mode is 12-bit, and 16-bit is a little bit higher quality. Most people can't notice the difference. Stay safe with 16-bit. However, if you want to do audio dubbing on this tape, either in a Sony machine such as a DSR-30 or something later on, you're going to have to stay in 12-bit. Because we're doing audio dubbing in this camera in just a minute for demonstration, I'm going to keep it on 12-bit. Wind is off, and we've been through these before. The input is set to external mic or line in, and in this case we're having on the mic setting. If you go back all the way to our main menu, you're going to see the LCD viewfinder set, in-out record, and others menu. These menus are also on the camera setting version that we went over before, so it would be redundant to go over them again. Right now I'd like to show you how to do the audio dubbing. Let's discuss the audio dub feature. Although this can be done in nonlinear edit systems back in the studio, sometimes you might have your talent out in the field that you won't be able to get back to the studio, and they want to run a narration over something that's been recorded, make sure their narration fits. They can do that in the field using the audio dub feature. It could also save time back in the studio, or you have your camera up at summer camp and you want to do a spoof on a foreign martial arts film and have kids overdub their voices. The uses for audio dub are endless, and you could do it from a mic or line input. We're going to show you how to do it. To do it, you have to be in DV mode. You can't be in HDV mode, and you have to set your audio to 12-bit. And we showed you before how to set the audio to 12-bit. And the mix mode, which we showed you before, is going to have to be in the middle or to the right for playing back your audio dub. What you do is you take your camera and you cue to the part that you want. I'll back up a little here on this footage and say we want to audio dub. And for the sake of time, I'm not going to plug in an external microphone. I'll just speak into the microphone here. Now, there is no audio dub button on this camera, so it could be confusing. What you have to do is you have to go into the menu under Assign BTN, Assign Button, and assign one of the buttons to audio dub. In the interest of time, I've already saved the Assign number 1 button right here to audio dub, and I'm going to give a demonstration of that now. So all I have to do is find the area that I'm ready to audio dub in, and I simply hit my Assign button because it's pre-assigned, and notice that you see a green round two half circles and a little pause button. That means we're ready to audio dub. All I have to do is release pause and talk into the camera. I'm audio dubbing on this video right now of 2 children eating their dessert. Hit stop, and then we're all ready to go. Remember, this can't be done in HD mode, and it can't be done in 16-bit mode, so this won't show up on the top of your screen if those 2 things don't apply, and your assign button has to be assigned to audio dub. So let's play back and see if it worked. Talking to the camera. I'm audio dubbing on this video right now of 2 children eating their dessert. And as you noticed, both were coming out at the same time. That's because, just to review again, and bear with me while I bring the camera down, all I have to do is go into the menu and decide on my mix. So if I only wanted my new overdub sound, I would go over to ST2. As you heard on that tape coming through the in-camera speaker, you heard both the background audio and the regular audio. That was in the middle. Any combination between ST1 and ST2 will give you that mix. But if it is set to ST1, you're not going to hear your new overdub sound. So make sure you're in, if you want to do dubbing like this, audio dubbing, 12-bit mode, ST1 and 2 are in the middle for playback, and you're in DV mode also.
Automatic shot transition is a new feature that's common to both of these cameras, and it's really interesting. It allows you to set several of the camera's parameters: zoom, focus, white balance, and then transition between these two settings parameters automatically over a predetermined amount of time, which you can set in the menus. What I've done here is show a shot with John in it and boats in the background. All I've done is change the focus. You can do an automated rack focusing from the background to the foreground over a predetermined amount of time, in this case 4 seconds, and you can also change the slope of the way it does. Instead of a nice linear slope, you can make it start out a little fast and then plateau. These are also settable via the menu functions. So let's take a look. I've put these both into the memory A and B. I'm just going to press the execute button here, and you'll see how we go from the background in 4 seconds to the foreground to John's face, nice and smoothly. Now I'm going to show you how to use the shot transition and how to store the custom presets in the A and B memories on the camera. Under the handle on the top of the camera, you've got the controls associated with the shot transition here. Now this is a multi-function button. Press the first time, it's the store mode, so that when you preset everything that you want on the camera for your initial position, you would hit that button so it says store, hold down the A button about 4 seconds, and then release. Then go ahead and customize all the functions on the camera that you want to have in your B position and be going from in the A to B, and then go ahead and press the B and hold it down for 3 seconds. It'll show you doing this on the LCD and confirm that you've got those stored in there. Then, if you want to go ahead and check that you have the presets right in the A and B memories, go ahead and put it in the check position and just hit A, and in 2 seconds it'll show you the presets. It'll throw the camera right into that mode. Hit B, it'll throw the camera into B mode. Sure, you've got everything optimized at that point. And you're ready to go, you hit execute. And at that point, if you go ahead and hit one or the other, it'll transition slowly over the predetermined amount of seconds you've set up between the two complete custom presets that you've stored in the A and B memories.
On the back of the camera, you'll see a button called Personal Menu. I'm going to hit it, and this is a menu that's pretty interesting because it's a menu that you create yourself. There's some presets already put in, but you can put in anything you want. Sometimes you'll have to delete one to put it in. I've already deleted one, but let me show you how to delete first. I'm going to go up to past the end, or you could go down this way right before the end and go to Personal Menu Setup. I'm going to go to Delete, and let's find something that I could care less about having in here. For example, the data code. I hit data code. You want to delete it? Yes. So you delete, and you have a little bit more room to put in what you want. I'm going to push Personal Menu twice, and I'm going to go to Setup again. Now I'm going to go to Add, and I can add anything I want in this Personal Menu. Suppose I want to go to add something about audio mix that I could call up really quickly. So let's say audio output. Do you want to add it to the menu? You say yes, and now it's been added. Now when I go to that Personal Menu, anytime, it'll probably be the last thing here, I go to audio output, I can select the amount of voltage that the microphone input has, and that's on my Personal Menu. Well, why would you use Personal Menu when you could use the assign buttons? Well, the assign buttons are really for things that you're going to want to do right on the job really fast. For example, a fade, a color bar, a gamma setting, or a hyper gain. Something really you want to quick use off the bat. The Personal Menu is if you don't want to have to go digging through some of your favorites that you use all the time and you want them right at your fingertips.
We're looking at both cameras right now, and they are connected together via the FireWire IEEE 1394 connections. And the Z1U on the right is going to be connected to the one on the left as a sort of master controller. And in the in-out record menu, if you go ahead down to external record control, you can do a couple of things here. First is on the record control mode, you can make nothing happen, or you can decide that you want the second device, the second DV device, to record synchronously exactly the same time as the master camera, As soon as you press record, the other one turns on, and it records exactly what the master camera is recording. You're remote controlling it and dumping the audio and video over the FireWire cable and recording a sort of second copy at the same time. Or you can do relay, which means when the tape in the master camera, the Z1U here, gets to the end, or just about the end, it'll start the second camera up and then continue recording on the second camera or DV device, sending the video from the Z1U to it. So you can sort of doubly extend your record time.
Bob, can you move one of the cameras to show how they're linked?
Absolutely, John. Right now we are feeding the signal from the right camera to the left, and you can see that it is going into the other camera. Also, in the external record control, the standby command can be two different modes. One is stop and one is record pause. That means what happens to the second DV device when you push the record stop button on your master Z1U camera. Do you want it to go into pause, or would you like it to stop? There we go.
If you get hired with your video camera to videotape a band and you want really good sound, sometimes you can come off a mixer to get that real nice direct blend and mix, non-echoey sound of all the band. The problem with that is that sometimes you can overdrive into your camera. That's why the input trim on your camera is very important, because if the signal from the band's mixer is not loud enough, and you have it up to 10, you have nowhere to move during the show. And if it's so loud that you have to bring your volume down to 1, then you don't have any adjustment. So the best thing is to set your volume at about 5 or 6 in your Sony camera, and then use the input trim to get the levels up to about where, right before the red. And that way, during the show, if you need some flexibility, you can do that. That's the advantage of the input trim. The other thing is sometimes boards only have 2 main outputs, so it's a good idea to bring a Y adapter so the band can go to their power amp, and the band can also go, the output can also go to your camera. Now, a microphone like this, you can get from anywhere $30 to about $100. A good stage microphone, pretty much all of them from Nady to Electro Voice make really good handheld mics. It's good to take along with a mic stand to a job, because you can now set your Sony HD cam to have one input come from the board with line level, and then set the other input to come from a mic level. Put this on a stand anywhere between 20 to 75 feet from the stage, and now you're going to have the direct sound from the board, which sounds really mixed okay but a little dry, and you'll have what we do call the sort of the wet or the ambient sound, which also pick up the crowds and the reverb and the hall noise. And you can go back later and mix or post-process between the direct sound that you get from the board and the sound that you get from the live ambient mic. One other quick thing to say is that if you really want excellent sound from the band, really insist with a band you get there really early and the band do a sound check just for the audio. Take a good set of studio monitors or a good set of headphones and let the band pre-approve how it sounds. What I'll do is I'll have the band take an extra set of outputs, either the effects outputs or a monitor output, and I will pre-mix, instead of relying on the mix of the levels that are going to the house for the direct sound, I will sort of put all one of the monitor sends or effect sends in the middle, have them play a song, and realize, okay, the bass is too loud, I could turn that down a little, the drums need to come up a little, the vocals need to come down. Have them do it again and play it back through the headphones and do it maybe 3 times, and you'll get a house mix that's much more balanced than just coming straight off the board. In that case, you wouldn't come out of the main outs, you might come out of one of the auxiliary send outputs on the band's board, or one of the monitor outputs on the band's board. That'll give you a custom mix for the house send. But the important thing is you're not going to be able to listen in headphones and mix it. The band will have to stop playing and play it back, because it's 98% of the time too loud to hear what's going on in the headphones while the band's playing. I hope that helps using your camera to videotape in a live event situation. I Occasionally you're going to go to play a tape back in the camera and you're going to get this message on the screen. No output image in VCR HDV/DV. Changed format. Well, don't panic. All you have to do is get to the menu button. Use your select switch to scroll down till you get to this screen right here. And you're going to hit the select button in. And then you're going to see VCR HDV/DV. We're going to push it in again, and it'll allow you to change. Now, the simplest way to avoid this problem most of the time is to go to the auto. That'll automatically switch. We were in DV mode, but we want to play back a tape that's in HD. So we're going to go to HD, push our selector in again, and we're all set. Just all we have to do is hit the menu again, and we're back to getting what we need on the screen at the proper time. I want to thank Zach and Bob for being such a great part of this video. And if you have any questions or comments, feel free to email us on the address you see on the screen. That's all for now, and we look forward to seeing you on another video in the future. You guys ready to take off?
Oh yeah.
Sony has two versions of this camera, the FX1 and the more advanced Z1U Pro. The Z1U Pro has some features that the FX1 doesn't have, and you may decide later if you have the Z1 Pro now to get an FX1 as a second camera, or you may have an FX1 now and decide you want to go to the Pro. So we're going to talk about these features, or you may want to have two cameras in the future for doing weddings or events and be able to get away with having one of each. So Bob, let's talk about the features in the Z1U Pro. First, let's start with the audio.
Well, the audio is what I would consider the major difference in these two cameras. The professional Z1U camera has XLR inputs with phantom power available and very much complete control of those two XLR inputs. So you can run line or mic levels into those. You have complete independent audio control on the back of the camera as far as the levels. The automatic gain control is slavable, both of them on one or separated. So it's got really full function on that. Plus it also has a noise reduction mode, which the FX1 doesn't have. Both of them have wind noise reduction for the internal camera, but the noise reduction mode and limiter mode is also exclusive to the Z1U Pro.
And the both of them, if you're going to be doing line inputs, so you're coming off a board doing a camera mix from a band. Could you get away with doing that with the FX1, the basic camera?
Well, truthfully, you could, but what people normally do is run outboard mixers, and that way you can take the little non-robust 1/8" stereo plug and you can run it to the output of a mixer and do all of your audio conditioning inside of an inexpensive mixer. It just means that you've got an outboard piece of hardware, and that's, of course, one of the things you're paying for in the better camera.
And you're talking about a price difference of approximately $1,700.
Street price, yeah.
The Z1 we're talking about $49,500 versus $32,333. So it's $1,700 difference, but with that difference, you'll also get something with the color correction. Talk about the color correction for me.
Well, color correction is really a really interesting feature. They call it color correction because it has two distinct modes, color revision and color extract. And basically what you have is two color memories that can preset to two different colors of your selection. And then you have two modes of operation. One is that you can extract a single or two colors out of the picture. Say you have a still life, an apple and a banana and things like this. And you can leave the apple red, the banana yellow, and extract those two colors, and the background is completely black and white. Now,
and that's only with the Z1U Pro?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. But revision is where you can take those two colors and slightly shift them in any direction you'd like, saturation or color phase-wise, and leave the rest of the picture the same.
So basically, you could do something at the beach where you want the sky more blue or just a different face.
You could. Well, one of the interesting things is since you have two color memories, if you set that effect, say you're changing the color instead of extracting it, you're revising it. If you set them to the same and bump the saturation up, the effect is doubled. So you could really pump up the saturation of one of the colors, or pump up the saturation or change the phase of two colors slightly in the revision mode.
Okay, and then the cinematone in the basic unit, which we don't have out here, we're actually videotaping this with the basic unit. Both cameras videotape the same kind of image, but if you want more options in cinematone, you have 3 options with the Z1U Pro. And the FX1, you have your basic option,
Correct.
which is a level 1. So if you're really into the 24p look and you want that kind of more options, you can certainly do that with, though the option on the FX1 is certainly fine, but you have more options with
You
the
have 3 options.
with the Z1U Pro. All right, let's talk about the assignable buttons.
Well, assignable buttons, physically the case of these cameras is really identical. But what they do is, on the Z1U, the better camera, all 6 of the buttons on the side are assignable, of these push buttons. So basically what they do to sort of derate the FX1 is to, on the 4, 5, and 6 buttons, they leave those to 3 assigned functions.
So you only have 3 instead of 6.
You've got 3 instead of 6, and also you have 14 different choices you can assign. You have more choices assignable.
Like 6. Yeah. Now, so if you're really a gadgeteer and you have a little bit extra money and you go out and you want different textures when you're on a job, I would highly recommend you getting the Z1U if you could afford it. If you're a basic, look, I just want to get out there and shoot HD, and I have a wireless microphone that's a 1/4 inch, and I'm not going to be doing a lot of band stuff, then you might want to save a little bit of money. Let's talk about DV cam versus mini DV and DV.
Well, this camera here has DV cam, and of course DV cam is a little more professional in the way it functions, and the way it implements the picture recording. Basically,
and this one is a Z1U,
yeah,
the more expensive.
Yeah, exactly. On DV cam, the audio is very tightly locked with the time coding and everything to the video itself. It is in a locked format, and that means that over long periods of time, the audio is going to really stay tightly locked with the video. Actually, the audio is not tightly locked with the time code in the standard DV format. And although you're not going to run into problems usually over long periods of time, that's the basic difference, plus as well what they call the pull down and the way that the picture is implemented. But the resulting picture is almost identical in quality.
Yeah, and I've had people say that the way it imports data in mini DV and DV cam, that technically you're getting the exact same picture. So I wouldn't advise buying the Z1U because you're feeling that DV cam is in fact going to give you a better looking picture, because it's indistinguishable.
It is.
And now on the Pro camera, you have the 2 types of bars. Do you have any bars on the FX1?
You have bars, but you have just 2 selections of bars on the Pro camera.
Okay, and then on the FX1, the basic, you have any bars at all? Okay, 1 selection versus 2. Okay,
yeah, absolutely.
Hours meter on the Pro?
Okay, well that's really a professional feature, because you might be putting a heck of a lot more hours on your camera, and eventually, of course, the helical heads do wear out, and you might want to replace the drum itself on the Pro camera or on either camera. But on the Pro camera, you do have an hours meter that will give you the spin-up time on the heads, how much time the heads has actually been in contact with the tape, the actual hours run time of the camera, and this stuff is recorded permanently, so you can review and say, hey, we've got X amount of hours, and we're going to need to replace the heads.
And what I found the hours meter good for is 7 or 8 years from now, or 3 or 4 years from now, you may want to upgrade, and there might be some other camera coming. I mean, years from now, there's always some other camera coming out. You go to sell the camera, people really want to know, hey, it's got 200 hours, it's got 800 hours, it's got 600 hours. And especially if you're not using the head a lot, you're just using it for a studio camera or something, the least amount of hours brings you the highest amount of resale
like
value.
miles on a car.
Right. Now, let's talk about time code differences between the 2 cameras.
Well, time code differences, there's a whole lot of adjustability in the Z1U, and that allows you to do user presetting and resetting of the time code. In other words, at any point you could reset the time code to 0. You can preset it to an exact time code that you want to start at that point, and those are just advanced features that help editors out later.
Okay, now if you decide you're going to go over to Europe and shoot for somebody in PAL, the more expensive Z1U Pro can do that.
It does. You can switch it over to 50 hertz, and you're in the standard HD modes for PAL.
Okay.
Yeah.
And then one feature that I really like on the Z1U is the hyper gain. And really, I've talked about this earlier, if you're in a situation where you really need a pop-up and there's absolutely no light, you're in situations, you could even be a private detective and really need to get stuff in very dark situations. That is really handy. And I have to say that that's different compared to the consumer cameras that sell a infrared gain.
Absolutely.
And the difference is you could zoom in with your lens and get some gain up, where an infrared gain relies on a beam that shoots out a close distance. So if you need to get something at a distance, across the street or something, and pop the gain up and you're outside at a wedding parking lot or whatever, that infrared's not going to work unless you're really close up.
Right. Content is more important than quality in the extreme case. And sometimes they do not say how much that gain bump really is, but I would say, as an engineer, I'd estimate it at 32 dB bump up gain.
Yeah, I think in there, if you look in the fine details, they do mention that. Now, the LCD viewfinder on both of them is identical in terms of quality. And I will say one thing about the viewfinders that we haven't mentioned anywhere else in the tape, and that is sometimes the LCD viewfinder is too rich and of a signal, so you want to tweak it. If you need something to tweak it to, if you don't have a really good monitor to put it next to and compare it to, you're in the field, this viewfinder gives a nice, even kind of image. And so what I do is I bounce back and forth by looking in the viewfinder and this flipping this open and then comparing them and try to get these two to come close. But a lot of professionals, like on the Z1U, is the fact that you can go black and white in this monitor. And when you take out the chroma, you're getting more technically a higher resolution kind of image. It's good for focus.
Yeah, it's easier to focus.
But it's certainly good to turn that on or off sometimes, because though it's easier to focus, you want to make sure your color setup is what you want. And in this viewfinder, even the color setup is even better than here.
It is, absolutely. So more you use this for playback, you're not going to be holding it like this and using the big viewfinder.
Okay. Any difference in the white balance presets between the Z1U and the
Well,
FX1?
a little bit. Basically, the way that they've implemented the white balance on this is somewhat different from previous cameras, because the standard preset allows you to just select between indoor and outdoor rather than fluorescent and all these 6 to 8 different choices. But on the better camera, in this preset mode, we have indoor and outdoor. You can also change the color phase plus to minus 7, so you can sort of tweak it a little bit up or down, warm it up.
And then you can't do that with the FX1.
Right, exactly.
Okay. So that's another advantage right there. The markers on the screen, if you're videotaping in HD, tell us about the difference.
There's a little bit of a difference in the markers because the better camera gives you more selections, 3 selections. Both cameras have a center X marker available, but the better camera, the Z1U, allows you to do a safe titling area marker because, of course, on lesser TVs, it's going to zoom in a little bit and cut off the edges so you have a safe area, and also a 4:3 bounding box, the vertical lines to show you where your 4:3 is.
Okay, and tell me a little bit about adjusting and peaking, the peaking control that's different on the Z1U Pro.
Well, both of these cameras have a zebra and peaking adjuster on the back here. You put it either into zebra to see where your whites are going to 100% or whatever you have set it to, but also a focus peaking option that sort of accentuates certain colors in the viewfinder so that it makes it easier for you to focus under difficult conditions. On the Z1U, it also allows you to select which colors you want accentuated in the picture, because if you're in a challenging thing, you might have a predominance of one color and want to really accentuate the differences in those colors to be able to focus more easily.
So have we covered pretty much the differences and the additions with the Z1U Pro?
I would say so.
Okay, one other quick thing that I wanted to add about the Z1U Pro is that...
we haven't talked about the limiter.
Okay, talk about the limiter.
Yeah, well, this in the audio section, this has an adjustable limiter, which allows you to sort of between 6 and I believe 12 dB, allows you to set either 0, 6, or 12 dB. And what that's going to do is, most of the time you're going to be running automatic gain control. And if you use the limiter in conjunction with automatic gain control, the lower audio is going to be amplified more up and effectively compressed up into the higher audio range, thus sort of compressing the dynamic range of the audio, but also at the same time limiting the unit from over-modulating and causing distortion. If you're using that without an automatic gain control, it simply limits the top end of the audio.
And what I wanted to add about email, if you email us at what you see on the screen here at this address, and just briefly say your name, so we'll check your registration about that you in fact bought the video from us. We'd be happy to send you at no charge via email a comparison chart of the things we've talked about, and there I'm almost positive there's 2 or 3 finer detail things that we can go into more. And that comparison chart is nice because a lot of people, when they get 2 cameras, are going to buy one of each, which is a perfect ideal cost combination. And you go out on a job and you have to think, gee, well, what am I going to need for this? I got one guy going out doing a wedding, one guy going out doing a band, or one gal going out doing a band. And oh, well, hey, they're really going to need the Z1U Pro because the audio features are more. And if you really had the money, one of each is certainly a perfect cost combination because you may want to shoot a 2-camera event.
Right. Remember that the resulting quality in HD out of this thing, or even in DV, they're identical. And that's a good thing. A resulting quality is the same. But when you get into the versatility and all that kind of thing, and having one of each would be absolutely ideal. So.
Either way, I think they're a fantastic camera. It's a matter of personal preference whether you want the FX1 or the Z1U, and in the future, obviously, get one, and in the future, if you can afford it, then get 2. With a 16:9 ratio, you're going to get a different aspect than what you're normally used to with the 4:3. One way to make it interesting is to use leading lines that are at an angle that go into the distance, to bring those lines to your subject. Because you have more real estate, in essence, on a 16:9, you can feel more free to put your subject, for example, farther into the distance. Now here we are using the leading lines to bring us to our subject, even though they're in the background. It's an establishing shot that shows it is, in fact, a jewelry store, and they are, in fact, looking at jewelry. We've also brought up the level of the tripod a little higher than normal to come down, creating more angles. So instead of a straight-on boring shot, we're using the angles of the glass cases as well as the leading lines going into the distance to visually lead our eyes to the subject, which is in the upper third of the screen. Here's one angle we could use to get our subjects getting a ring repaired. If we wanted to make the jeweler a little bit more in the dominating position, we would lower the angle of the tripod. Now we've composed the shot where the jeweler is more at a dominating position and takes up a little bit more of the frame, making him more the subject of our composed shot. Here's a shot we're lining up, and as you can see, the ceiling is not lined up right. It's much more obvious in 16:9, so we have to adjust the tripod accordingly, and we're using the scene as the ceiling as our reference horizon line. So Martha went to get a straw and is going over to put it in the cup. Now, this is an okay shot, but the problem is it doesn't have a lot of action to it, so we're going to change the angle. Here's the same kind of shot, except we've just moved where the camera is, and she sits down so her head's not cut off in the picture, and you notice there's some reflections in the table, which is really nice, and she's not exactly centered, especially in 16:9. You want a little bit off center. Makes for more attractive shot most of the time. As you saw in the last shot, action toward the camera can be more dramatic, but we can also rotate a camera around an object in 16:9 to make something more dramatic. If this was a movie, we wouldn't have that cup white. We'd probably have it brown or yellow or something because the white's blowing out, but you get the idea. Okay, action, Martha. Same shot again, except this time we rotate around the cup. Here we're leaning the camera on the table and rotating it around to give us yet another way to pivot around an object, in this case, to get another Similar version of the same shot. Here we are with Olivia Jane, and she's going to be our model for this next segment where we demonstrate how to get a more film style look from your 24p Sony camera. The first thing you need to know is throwing the background out of focus can be really helpful. Would you go back to your spot before, about 25 paces back, please? Go ahead. So in order to throw the background out of focus, which is very much like a 35mm look, because a 35mm pickup device is bigger so it gets less depth of field, we want to simulate that by going in all the way. They usually have longer lenses sometimes on the 35, and this will help throw the background out of focus. Now the other thing to remember is your background should be as far away as possible. Here it's about, I don't know, 100 feet in the distance. And as you can see, she's in focus as we focus, and the background's out of focus a little, but we want to throw it out of focus more. So we're going to put our neutral density filter on, and watch as we do that. We change the background a little bit more. Now our f-stop is down to 2.8 wide open because it's an overcast day. So if it's a real sunny day, it's going to be harder to do this. So we recommend a nice even overcast day. It gives a more even look, which is similar to the film style look, or the look you're used to getting with 16 or 35mm film. Give us a nice smile there. There we go. Okay, so we want to add a little bit more. We have the neutral density filter on, and we want to add the cine frame. So we're going to go into picture profile number 1, and we're going to go to setting. Well, first we're going to we brought the color level up to 4, a little bit of richness. The color phase -4, give a little bit of the film style color. And we have our black stretch off, and our cinema tone on, and our cine frame on. And then we're going to hit picture profile again. And so now, if you were to throw the ball up and back a little, you see you get a little bit, and wave your hand and smile. And Martha, if you can go over there and talk to her a little bit off camera. You see, so it's got a little bit more of a film style look. The background's out of focus. She's in the 24p frame mode, and we're on ND1. You can get the background out of focus more by ND2. The problem with doing that is you're going to get it too dark like that. So, and she's talking to Martha now. And if you were to see this on TV, you might be fooled into thinking, oh, that's a scene from a movie. Let me reframe here. That's a scene from a movie because of the fact that the background is out of focus, and she's in the 24p, and she's in an overcast day. All those things can help contribute to the look of the film. Now here's Olivia's close-up, and we've now stopped down the f-stop to 4.8 because she's very fair-skinned, and her face is taking up more of the screen. So if we had had it at 2, it would have been washed out like this, which might have looked acceptable for video, but for film, you want to sort of underexpose things. So we're at 5.6 now. And hey, just don't rock back and forth a little. Just stay total. There we go. That's great. Keep talking to Martha. You got to tell your talent not to rock back and forth when you have your close-up. And so we're framing her here, and we're bringing the f-stop down, and now it's at 6.8 back to 6.2. And you'll have to experiment to see what it looks like. 5.6. We'll keep it a little lower, 6.2. And so we have the neutral density on 1, f-stop at 6.2, and we actually haven't moved the camera at all. We just had her move closer to the camera, and because the background's green, it just doesn't really matter whether we move the camera to her or we move her closer to the camera. If we put the ND filter on number 2, and we bring the f-stop up a little bit more, down a little bit more, where it's 2.8, and that's all the available light we have. We could put up the gain a little bit, and now the background's even more out of focus, and it really gives it a neat film style look. Now here's the same shot in the same place, done without zooming in all the way, without using the cine frame mode, without using the ND filter, and without changing the color. And it's the exact same camera, so you could see that depending on how you set up the shot, it can make a big difference on how to make it look more like film.